Hello everyone. Today I want to show you that how to configure a dynamic NAT in a Cisco device, uh, specifically on the router. You can follow the instruction in this article to configure a dynamic NAT on Cisco device using a network configuration manager application you can create. The corresponding configuration commands. You can use this to simultaneously perform the same action on multi-devices on your Cisco router. We specify two sets of addresses for dynamic NAT. These are, of course, the NAT, if you don't know before, NAT means network address translation dynamically. There are two types of Cisco router NAT configuration. This is static NAT configuration and dynamic NAT configuration. In the case of static NAT configuration, you can specify a private IP address to a public IP address, which means that statically you can configure a network address translation on a router that specifically route the Cisco router can route to directly the IP address you assigned. In the case of dynamic NAT configuration, it's only address dynamically with the global addresses to the local addresses. So there are two sets of addresses for the dynamic NAT, and these are the inside address that will be translated, and the other is a pool of global addresses. So what we have to remember in the case of dynamic NAT, you have two addresses. These are the global address, and the other the inside address that will be translated to the outside. As you know that a router are specifically serve as a routing table or a NAT table for segmenting network, especially for if you use a local for the internet connectivity that connect the outside network with local networks. So in our cases, we have a design, a pilot design, and this design we can give the inside address like here as you see here, an IP addresses with 192.168.1.1 with the segment mask off as usual to 55 to 55 and to 55 with 0. And we will use the router of 1941 on a packet tracer as a router for the series, and the other the server side or the outside like a cloud, we can use the outside addresses 10.10.10.1. So this is the design. We will show you how to configure a NAT, a dynamic NAT on the Cisco router. So with the dynamic NAT, the mapping for a local address to a global addresses occur dynamically, as I have already explained on the above, as opposed to the static NAT, where a static mapping between a private and public addresses had to be manually defined. In other words, the router randomly selects unassigned addresses from the global address pool. Any addresses from the collection of world addresses is possible, as long as the traffic is being exchanged. The dynamic entry remains in the NAT translation table after a certain amount of inactivity. The entire timeout and the new translation can be made using a global IP addresses. So the configuration dynamic NAT, there are some steps required, and these are configure the router inside interface using the IP NAT inside command. Of course, there is a command to distinguish whether the interface of a router is for the inside parts or the outside parts. So the command specifically stated like this: IP NAT inside command. and the other we will use a configuration of a router for the outer interface, which is come from the outside network using a IP NAT outside command. This is a second step, where the third step is configuring an access control list that has a list of inside source addresses that will be translated. We have to list the address which can be translated as a source of address addresses. So this is the third step. The fourth step, configure the pool of global IP addresses using the IP NAT pool name. We will give a name for the pool name and the last IP address. This is the first, this is the range. When we pool global addresses, we have to give ranges, the first IP address to the last IP address, and with the subnet mask commands. And the fifth step is enable a dynamic NAT with the IP NAT inside source list and the access control list number and the pool name global configuration commands. So steps to configure dynamic NAT using a command line interface, CLI, and we have to log in to the device using SSH. Of course, we have to show you this on the packet tracer, whereas in the physical router, you have to log in into the router using internet or SSH session to the enable mode. So after that, after you enable, then you have to go to the configuration mode. On the configuration mode, you have to use a configure terminal command or config T, and enter the configuration command one per line and with control D. So it will display these commands. And the third one, we have to configure the router inside interface. How? We should go to the interface, mode, and on the interface mode we will write IP NAT inside. It is a command I have listed on the above. I will show you practically after this slide. I will show you the detail how to. And third, we have to exit because we have to assign which interface should be an inside part and which interface is for the outside. So configure the router outside interface. How? Interface, we will assign the interface and the IP NAT inside and exit. And after this, we have to configure access control lists that has a list of inside source addresses that will be translated. How? We have to be in the configuration mode. After that, we will write which permitted addresses should be translated in such a way. So we will give a name, access list, for example, 1, and permit between. We should permit starting from the 0. And this access list confirm above match all hosts from the 192, 168, 00 with a subnet mask of 24. So after that, we will configure the pool of global IP addresses. Then how to make that? Then the IP NAT pool in the configuration mode of interface, my pool, as the given the above. Of course, in this case, is written for 1, but in our cases we will write 10, 10, 10, and 1, and the subnet masks. We have to pull then the range as the first IP address to the last IP address. And the pool configuration above consists of 5 addresses because it's written between the 1 and 5 with the as it is listed 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 5. So enable dynamic NAT configuration. This is an IP NAT inside source list 1, as we have stated on the IP access control list on the above, and with the pool of my pool. So after that, the command above instruction router to translate all the addresses specified in the access list 1 to the pool of global addresses collected in my pool. So exit the configuration mode, and it will be the enable mode. Execute show IP address translation command to view the NAT configuration, and copy the running configuration into startup configuration using a command write memory or do write. So this is all, and let's see practically what it looks like. On the packet tracer we have designed this, then we will see step by steps. So I have to use a command line interface, then we maximize this, and as you here I have to enter here, so this is the enable mode. I have to write enable, and then it becomes a configuration mode, and in order to configure terminal, then sorry, there is a config terminal, then it will enter to the global configuration mode. So as we have stated that on the next step should be we have to assign the ports. So here it is, we have a ports, then how to know it is 00 gigabit internet 00, this interface we have. So interface gigabit internet 00, then this is the 00 as we have assigned for 192.168.211. So this is an IP NAT inside. We have assigned this inside already. Then we can say exit, or if in case there is an interruption of the power, in order to be the safer side, we have to always copy the configuration mode to startup mode. So I can say on any mode, any mode of the command line, I can say do write, and this will copy the running configuration into the startup configuration. What is the next step is we have to assign the outside interfaces, the IP NAT outside. So interface gigabit internet 01. This is an interface mode, so I have to assign this IP NAT outside. So it's already assigned, so I can write I can copy the configuration mode into the startup mode in such a way to write by this command, and let's say exit. So to the global configuration mode. So this the third step is I have to access list 1. We have to permit 192.168.1.0 to 0 is a translation, and the subnet mask 255.255.255.0. So I have already assigned the access list control. That's access list control 1, permit this local address translation inside. So I have to say to right, and the third part I have to give a global addresses. So in order to give a global IP address, I can say IP NAT pool. IP NAT pool, I can say, as we have already said, IP NAT pool, and in this case we have to give a range. Then a range, the point 10. This is outside the IP address, which is given by the ICP or the outer side network administrator, and this is in between. We can give the last IP address point 10 up to 5. So we can give a 5 IP address. And so the other is what's left, net mask. Net mask 255.0.0.0. So enter and do right, and this is what till now what we have given here. We have assigned gigabit internet 0 ports for the inside the IP NAT inside, and gigabit internet 01 for IP NAT outside, and we have created an access list that can permit an address, a local address. Then the other is we have assigned a pool or the global IP address, which is start from 10.10.10.1 up to 5. This is a net mask of 255.0.0. And now we have to give the dynamic NAT configuration at last. So in this case, in order to have the network address translation can happen dynamically when we configure this by IP NAT inside source list. Source list 1 with pool my pool. Already we have assigned this with this. So this means that it can translate the access control list with the pool, the global address pool system. So this is dynamically we have already right, and dynamically, so we can save. And this is all about how to configure a dynamic NAT on a router. So we can see what configuration we have done. Then do show. Do show run. I have to say that. Do show run this application. Then in this case, what we can see when we enter, then here it is, as you can see here on the interface gigabit interface gigabit internet 00. There is no IP address, of course. We can give an IP. We should give an IP address, but IP address not inside and duplex out. so the speed and it's shut down. So the whereas the other, the Gigabyte Ethernet 01, we still does not an IP address to the outside and IP NAT outside duplex, and it's still shut down. And our IP NAT pool is beginning from 1 to 5 with a subnet mask of to 55.00.0.0. So the other is IP classless, and this is how and the access control is already written here. And so what we have to do in this case, we have to give an interface giga bit Ethernet 0 0 we have to give into, and the IP address we should give IP address 192, this is inside 162.1.1 with 255.255, this is a subnet mask 255.0, and you can say to right, and we have to exit and to the other, and we have to get into the interface again, and the Gigabyte Internet is 01, it is outside part. We can give an IP address of 10.10.10.1 with subnet mask of 255.0.0.0 and to right. So in this case, and we can say no shutdown, of course, no shutdown. It's opening here, and we can change, of course, interface exit and interface gigabit 00. So we can open this one also, no shutdown, no shutdown command, down, then let's say do right. We have to copy the running configuration into startup configuration and do show run now. Yes, as you can see here, the Gigabit Ethernet 00, the IP address is already given, and the IP NAT inside. This is inside the part of the local address, and in the case of Gigabit Ethernet, the other ports are which by default the Cisco 9041 series or 90 series has the two ports, the outside and the inside part, and two ports we can assign, and this is already the IP nothing outside is written in such a way. Then this is how it is permitted. So the permission is like this. Of course, we can see exit access list one permit into 0 to 0 255 to right, exit, let's show run. Yes, okay. Yeah, here it is a subnet mask and the two. Yeah, so this is a permit. This is how to config configuration mode. And this is how to configure this is a basic command, of course, how to configure a dynamic NAT configuration on network address translation in a router, which means it can route between the external network with a local network, or it can segment the network into two parts, the outside and inside parts. So without a given permission of NAT table, there is no communication between the outside network and the inside network. And this is how to configure a dynamic NAT. So in the next part, I will show you how to assign a public IP address, or mapping a public IP address statically, or static NAT configuration using a router, a Cisco router. So thank you very much that you have followed this tutorial. If you have any comment, you can send us a comment, but don't forget that in order to encourage our tutorial, you have to subscribe, like and share, and if you want to have the notification, then click the notification button. Thank you very much. Have a nice time.